Hello, what is up, all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Chapple Show, and I am back. I took a sick day off yesterday. I'm back. I'm healthy. I'm full of energy, and let's talk about the business news today. So what are we going to cover? Today, we're going to cover largely Tesla news. There's actually a bunch of stuff I want to cover about Tesla, not just their earnings reports. We're also going to be talking about a new space program, Apple earnings. I didn't get to talk about that. So Apple, we're going to be talking about our stock market winners and losers, Fitbit, a bunch of things today. So anyways, let's jump right into this Tesla news. Okay, so they released their earnings reports and, about all their updates, their earnings calls, their conference call. And so their stock has absolutely shot up today, 6%. The stock has gone up 6% today. So I think that they're almost fully recovered from their downturn. I guess that started happening in late June here, June 23rd. Actually, they haven't fully recovered. They're still down 9% from their peak, but still the stock shot up 6% today alone. So why is that? Again, this is the typical type of stock market news which we are used to seeing in this modern market. I mean, I talk to my dad about this all the time, but I'll give you a second here. So why is the stock gone up so much? Why is it up 6% today? It's because they were going to have an estimated loss. So the estimated Wall Street loss was going to be $1.88 per share. That's how much Tesla would lose. And they only had a loss of $1.33 per share. Oh, so they're still losing money, but the loss isn't as bad as people thought it would be. So the stock goes up 6%. Okay. And the other thing, too, was that they had an estimated $2.5 billion in revenue for quarter two. That was the expected, and they had $2.8 billion in revenue. They had about they overshot revenue estimates by about $300 million here, and a bunch of other things too. They said that the Model 3, everything's on track. Everything's on track. There's no delays so far. And they announced a few other things too, that there are 455,000 Model 3 reservations. And another interesting tidbit too that I took from this is that they are not willing to sell off any more equity in the company to raise money. So from now on, what Elon has said, at least in the current situation, if it keeps going the way it is, they are not going to be selling off any more of their company. They're actually just going to take out debt, which is, kind of what they've been doing over the past couple of years. But they're going to take out as much debt as possible, and they don't want to dilute their shares any more than they are right now. So what's my opinion on all of this? Well, this is just the world we live in. It's like it's a good story when a company doesn't lose as much as everyone expects them to lose. They're still losing money. And so to me, this is still this is nuts. This is a company that still can't turn a profit, and they have a $56 billion valuation right now. So my opinion on this is good. Okay, so they beat estimates by what? That's 30% in terms of earnings per share, about 20% or so. And so that's okay. They found a way to reduce their losses by 20 to 30% in a quarter. I guess that's substantial, but you're still losing money. The company's still losing money. This is an upside down world. The stock, this is the only time in the stock market's history, actually not the only time, .com bubble, sure. Okay, this is one of the only times in the stock market history where a company can announce that they're losing money and the stock price is going up. And we've seen this too. I talked about this a few days ago about the airline companies having a lot less revenue. Sure, they're still making profits, but having a lot less revenue, and people are seeing that as a positive just because they fired off 6,000 people. And so this is such a weird situation that we're in right now. I mean, I guess it's kind of a good sign that Tesla has more revenue than expected. I mean, that's a good sign, but still at the same time, they're still losing money. They're just not losing as much as people expected. And so here's something I was thinking about too, was that when will Tesla turn a profit? That's what I would like to know. And they haven't really talked about that. But when do they expect to turn a profit? When will be their first time that they turn a profit in their company's history? Is that going to come up in quarter one of 2018? Maybe after they ramp up the Model 3 production? I don't really know. When do you think Tesla will finally be able to turn a profit? That's my question to you guys. My guess would be hopefully by mid to end of 2018. That'd be my guess here. But still, it's so strange, the kind of market we live in. Because I talk about this with my dad. He's been investing for 40 years. And he says, like, look, if a company loses, he has the same thing as me. If a company's losing so much money and has done that since the company has been created, I'm probably not going to invest in it because they don't know how to turn a profit yet. Now, I guess that the sign of this is I understand why the stock has gone up, because for me, what this means is that the company is at least learning how to become less of a loss company, slightly leaning to the more profitable end of what they're doing right now. So maybe they're learning what to do in order to actually, make their company profitable. But that's just my opinion on that. I know that they're going to probably turn profits once they start pumping out all the Model 3s and start selling them to the 455,000 people that reserved them. By the way, 455,000 reservations for the Model 3, and that's on average, $35,000 per car. Sure, there's going to be some other fees in there and stuff, but $35,000 per car. Let's do some math on that. 455 million. So that's roughly $12 billion in revenue right there. $12 to $16 billion. So, the revenue should pick up next year. It should more than double, theoretically, which should make them profitable, but we'll see. So my question to you guys is, do you think that Tesla will be profitable by the end of next year or mid next year once the Model 3 start rolling out? And yeah, what do you guys think? And what do you guys think of Tesla as a stock right now? What do you guys think of the company? So anyways, again, this is just such a strange situation. They're probably going to take out more debt in the next 2 quarters, and the stock's still going to keep going up. So anyways, we're going to move on to the next Tesla topic, because this is going to be a Tesla-heavy topic I want to talk about today, because there's a bunch of things that came out about them that I want to mention here. So this one's going to be a little bit of a touchy subject for a lot of you listeners out there. This is going to be a little bit of a touchy subject because people have 2 different opinions on this. So Tesla factory workers pushing for a union just sent a list of demands to the company's board. So Tesla factory workers, they want to form a union. Okay. And so I want to give you my opinion on like what unions are, and I understand both sides here. And in this case, what's my opinion on it? So unions as a whole, if you run a business and you're an entrepreneur and you at least run a good company and everyone's happy, but yet they form a union, it's really difficult to comprehend that, because it's like your workers can just all decide to get up and leave if they want to, because they want an extra $5,000 raise per year on average for each of them. And a lot of the times, a lot of unions don't really understand that the company can't necessarily do that in a lot of cases. Tesla right now, they're still in a lot of debt right now. There's still a lot of debt and they're still losing money. All right, so I understand that perspective. I also understand the other perspective here, which we're going to talk about, which is that why they want to form a union is because the factory workers are very overworked and underpaid. And I was like, okay, well, this is what the union is trying to say. This is what the workers are trying to say. And I dug into this a little bit here. And so I want to take a look at the Tesla average salary for the factory workers here and the average salaries at the company here. So the sales consultants, they on average make $141,000. This is just all according to whatever the site is, Indeed.com. Who knows how accurate it is, right? So we don't really know. But here's what I want to talk about here is that, we're going through these salaries here. The average Tesla employee looks like they make roughly $80,000 to $90,000 a year. But we're going to go down here to the factory workers specifically. So production and manufacturing here, that's largely that's the people who want to form a union, right? And so they, production associates, assemblers, assembly technicians, production workers, production supervisors, they make, a lot of these people make $17 an hour. Okay, and that's okay. $17 an hour, if you were just to be placed anywhere else anywhere in the world, $17 an hour is actually, that's okay. I was doing the math here. $17 an hour equates to roughly $35,000 a year, and that's just above average income. Here's where it's a problem. Do you know where the Tesla factory is located? It's located slightly north. By slightly, 20, 30 kilometers north of Silicon Valley. All right, it's just north of San Jose. Or is it San Jose? I believe it's Fremont, California. I think that's near San Jose, right? And so, to me, if you don't know how much it costs to live in that area, low income in that area is roughly $90,000 a year, $90,000 to $100,000 a year. So these factory workers here making $35,000 a year, and I don't know how much they work. I couldn't really get the hours here, but even if they work an 8-hour, I guess that they have long hours and difficult conditions that they're saying here. But still, they're probably underpaid for the area, and they might be overworked. I mean, it's been said all the time that Elon Musk is one of those people. He's like he overworks his employees, just like Jeff Bezos, just like a lot of successful entrepreneurs. I mean, I understand that perspective. It's just, it's so strange. These factory workers making $35,000 a year living in Silicon Valley. And so, I better double check on this, like Tesla factory location. I believe it's in Fremont, California, right? Yeah, that's where it is. It's in Fremont, California. There's 6,000 people that work there. So anyways, my opinion on this is on unions as a whole, because I'm brought up in the GTA, not Grand Theft Auto. GTA is the greater Toronto area, and we have this massive problem. It's a problem that almost everyone agrees with in terms of teachers here, the teachers unions. If you adjust their pay for hours worked and adjust their pay for the summers, and if you adjusted their pay for how much the average person works during a full year, they would make on average between $85,000 and $100,000 per year. Okay, that's the average. That would be the average wage. Now they end up making, $50,000 to $60,000 per year, but that's because they take summers off and they get more vacation days than anyone else in the history of working in this province. And so, we kind of have this opinion of unions here that they go on strike on average about every 2 to 3 years because they want more money. They want more money and more days off. And that's the problem. That's my opinion of like unions in my area right now, is like there should be a certain point where, like, I understand that, teachers have a very important job, but if you were to work the same amount of hours as a normal worker throughout the entire year, you would have almost $100,000 a year job, and yet you want more money and more days off. And that's a little bit of a problem for me when that's my tax dollars, okay? Now, again, that's my opinion. That's one of my opinions on unions. However, I understand you get a lot of dickhead bosses out there having people work in terrible conditions. I mean, one of the reasons why we don't have, sweatshops here in the Western world is because of unions. It's because of unions and obviously federal laws and regulations. But I mean, I understand both sides to this argument here. And it's just, for me, it made me think about myself. Like when, if my company starts taking off and I hire a bunch of people, I wouldn't want a union. I'm probably going to pay my employees fairly well. And I don't know if I would want a union to form. I'd take that as a sign of disrespect, and I might just seriously sell the company and move on. Because that's very scary if all of your union workers can just walk out. I mean, I'd just fire everyone and restart. I know that's not legal, but still, like, it's worrisome to me, where you could be working very hard and paying everyone very well, but because maybe you say something, wasn't there a story about the Uber person who, I don't know who it was, there's some CEO, maybe it wasn't Uber, about someone said something in the news and he was like slightly racist, and then everyone just stopped working and went on strike, like, because they were unionized and they could do that. I mean, that's scary stuff. Your company can be shut down because of the unions. Again, I understand the others, and like, I don't know. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here. My apologies for this, but what's your opinion on unions as a whole? Because I have the two-sided opinion. I understand both sides, and I think it's on a case-by-case scenario. That's how you have to take this stuff. Some unions are very, very good. Some unions have to be there so that they can, have a decent wage, and so that they can have decent conditions to work in. I mean, that should be what it's like for everyone in the Western world, right? I mean, I completely agree with that. But, do I think that you should be able to go on strike as a company because you want an extra $500 raise a year, or $1,000, or because your CEO said some sort of microaggressions, which is kind of what we're getting into now? No. And I understand both sides of that. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. What do you guys think of unions as a whole? And what do you think of the Tesla situation right now? Because this is one of those cases where I understand it. I mean, if they want better conditions or more pay, this is one of those scenarios where, you're living in Silicon Valley, you're close to it, and you're getting paid $35,000 a year. You're underpaid. You're poverty. I mean, that's actual poverty. So anyways, I think that we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is vector space. And so this is actually kind of big news. Not really too big news, but it can be for space exploration and space experimentation. And so essentially what happened was that this guy, left SpaceX, he started his own space company, which I'm very surprised he was allowed to do that. Usually there's a non-compete clause when you sign on with any of these tech companies here. But this person left, started Vector Space Systems. And so why is this important? Why am I talking about it? Because one, I am a pretty big nerd, if you guys haven't noticed. But two is that so they want to carry small satellites into space, and a bunch of them at a time, okay? And so right now, SpaceX is one of the best options to do that. There's about a handful of other companies that do it very well. But SpaceX is pretty cheap for doing this stuff. So it costs $62 million per launch, which is, again, as it says here in this article, it's still too expensive for small companies. But this company, Vector R, aims to cost of, that's a really poorly worded thing there, cost of less than $3 million per launch, or 1/20th the cost of SpaceX. Now, that's a little bit, that's probably trying to build hype, $3 million. I mean, usually when someone puts out a big, report or news article of something that they want to do, don't believe all of it. In fact, don't even believe half of it. But even if you don't believe half of this and they're able to get launches for even $10 million, that's significantly reducing the cost of spaceflight. That's still by 80% by doing that. So even if they could get $10 million per launch, that's big news. And so what this means is that not small businesses, but medium-sized businesses can all of a sudden enter that market to launch satellites into space, whether it's for whatever GPS company they want to launch, for whatever telecommunications company they want to launch. If you want to just do experimentation using something you want to launch into space, all of a sudden those types of companies can get into this rather than just companies that can pay $60 million per launch, like a telecom company, and do that several times a year. So this is pretty big news for just the future of business and the future of technology in general if this takes off. I'll keep you guys updated as I always do, but we're going to see what happens here. Even if they could cut the cost down to $10 million per launch, that'd be pretty successful. So, breaking news, Dow posts seventh straight record closing, rising to support of Russia probe intensifying. That Russia stuff. I don't know if you guys want me to talk about politics. Apparently about 55% of you want me to, and a lot of you don't. 30% of you don't care, and 20 to 30% don't want me to. Just some of this stuff, man. It just happens regardless of who's in office. People just want to, people always get angry. And I feel like people are really angry now because of the person who is in office. And it's just, I'm just tired of hearing all this stuff, honestly. I mean, you guys know me, I'm pretty centrist. I mean, I have a lot of really conservative views. I have a lot of really liberal views. And so I end up somewhere in the center. But this is just something where, people are just looking to get outraged and looking for a reason to impeach the president. And it's just from emails, and I don't know. I'm really sick of hearing all this stuff because nothing's going to happen of it. People are just trying to get people are just trying to get eyeballs to click on articles and all that stuff. So I'm just really sick of hearing all this Russia stuff. Nothing's going to come from it, in my opinion. So anyways, we want to talk about Apple. Apple. The cash pile has reached $261.5 billion. That's right. I thought it was actually more than that. But after this happened, the stock shot straight up here. Actually, let's check in on the Apple stock, because I haven't checked in on that stock in a while, actually. The Apple stock here. So what did it go up? So after they announced that, the stock went up 6.86%. Jesus. So they're worth $800 billion. Billion, that was weird. $800 billion. They're going to become a $1 trillion company. They're going to beat Amazon to the punch. They might do it. So, wow. What do you guys think of Apple right now? They're one of those companies where, they're valued at $800 billion and they're not overvalued. Look at this. 17.7 PE ratio for the most valuable company in the world. This is one of those companies, man, where they have enough of a cash pile where if they were not to sell anything for years, they would still have enough money to continue their business. 5 years, 3 years into the future, 5 years. 261 billion, guys. Oh my God. And so I was reading a bunch of reports that, this one I liked the most because they talked about how 90% of this cash pile is not in the United States, or 94% or somewhere around there. 94% of this money is not in the United States. And so let's talk about the numbers here. So the company spent $2.94 billion on research, which was up from $2.56 billion a year ago. Their year-over-year, what is it? I saw it here. The year-over-year earnings were still up. Their cash pile is 13% greater than last year over year. I mean, this is they're just piling up the billions and billions every single year here. So, what's my opinion on this? What do I think should happen with that money? Well, here's the deal: is when you have a company making billions of dollars and they're an American company and they're getting taxed at rates. Their corporate tax is 35 to 40%. And, on top of all the other taxes that go along with the payroll, insurance, all that stuff they have to pay for. I mean, we're talking about 50% of those profits are getting taxed. And, I kind of have this rule here where if you are an entrepreneur, I think that taxes should be lower if you are hiring people. I'm a fan of that. But, on any basis, whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, a corporation, you're a small business, you're whatever, an S corp, whatever you are, I'm of the opinion, this is one of my political views, that there's under no circumstances in any country should the government be taking more than half of your money, or even half. I think 49% would be the absolute maximum I would talk about. That accounts for everything, income tax, all the other taxes you pay on it. I mean, I think 49% is the maximum, because I think that's just my opinion. And I know it's kind of unpopular from a lot of super liberal people, and it's unpopular for a lot of conservatives. I mean, 49%. Well, ideally for me, I'd like that to be as low as possible. I mean, I do whatever I can to lower my taxes. I mean, there's a really good chance that I'm gonna have to pay, less. I might make theoretically, $100,000 in gross income this year. However, there's a chance that I may barely have to pay any tax on that. I mean, we're talking maybe $1,000 or $2,000, a few $1,000 on that, because I'm pretty good with getting around taxes in a legal way and doing it, as I've talked about in a lot of my videos here. And I'd like taxes to be as low as possible, but I understand what taxes go towards, and I'm really torn on this thing. This is seriously what separates conservatives and liberals. Like, what should your tax dollars go towards? That's usually the biggest differentiator in how much should you be taxed, right? So for this, when Apple sends $261 billion overseas into a bunch of banks or accounts that you only have to pay 5% in tax or less, I mean, I understand it. I understand it as a company. I mean, I might have to do that in the future if my company gets big enough. And I mean, in Canada, we have the least competitive corporate tax rate in the world. I believe it's closer to 40%. Or actually, no, I think it's close to the United States, but still, it's probably one of the highest in the world, top 3. And I just can't do that. I mean, why? When the government's going to be taking more than half of your money, when you include for that and all the other taxes and insurance that goes along with that, I guess in Canada you don't have to really pay insurance. Actually, you kind of do, but you do have to pay on top of that. But should the government take more than half? No. And it's crazy because when you work 20 hours and you're an entrepreneur and you found a company and you take a bunch of risk, and you build up a successful company and the government decides, after 5 years, when you've built this up and put in more effort into everything, you got a bunch of people telling you that you should give up more than half of your profits to the taxes because it's the good thing to do for the country. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I haven't reached that point yet, but I mean, I probably will in the next few years. So I'll keep you guys updated on that and what I think of that, because maybe I would have to move my company somewhere else. We'll see what happens in the next 5-10 years or so. But anyways, Apple's cash pile hits $261 billion. So the next thing I want to talk about is Fitbit. Fitbit is actually up. Let's see, they're up 13% as of. Oh, it should have closed by now. Update. Fitbit is up 13.31%. Is that updated yet? 15%. There we go. It's finally updated. 15.19% here because analysts bet on smartwatch launch here. So they're 15% as of this current second here. Again, this is, I guess, just one of those. Oh, wait. Let's see what these news. I read one of the news articles here. Everyone's just excited about their new watch here, and that they didn't have as much of a loss as before. Fitbit results: loss of 8 cents per share versus an expected loss of 15 cents. So those were the exact numbers here. So again, one of those companies up 15% simply because they didn't lose as much as everyone expected. This is a strange world we live in, guys. So Fitbit up 15%. They are one of the stock market winners of the day. Tesla, obviously, they are up. We talked about them already. They're up. They closed at roughly 6%. 5.96% up today. So good job, whoever invested in them. 6.51%. That's what they closed at. Activision. Activision and Blizzard, the company that makes what, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, and what, Overwatch? Oh yeah, that's right, Blizzard. Okay, they were up 4.1% today. They've been great over the past decade. Look at this stock here. Even since '93, they were a penny stock, and now we're $63 a share. Congratulations, Activision. So some of the losers today: Concho Resources Inc. I don't know who they are, but they have a big market cap of 17 billion. A fairly large market cap, I guess, not like small or medium, but I guess what's the cutoff for you guys? What's a small to medium market cap for you guys? Because I think for me, a large market cap's anything over 10 billion, in my opinion, and then medium sized is maybe 500 million to about 10 billion, and then small market cap is anything under 500 million. That's just my opinion. So what do you guys think? Concho, I have no idea what they do, but they're in Texas. I'm guessing that they're something to do with oil. Resources, yeah, it looks like Resources company here. So they're down 8.71% today. Wow, they have a PE ratio of 103. Jesus. Okay, so Apache Corp, I do know them because they are a petroleum company, and they're about the same market cap as before. They're down 8.72% today. 8%. Sorry, this always takes a little bit to update here. So they're around 8% today, and I think that's going to kind of close this out here. That's going to close out the returning episode here to the stock market winners and losers, and to this YouTube show that I do almost every day. Wow, look at Apache. They've been so cyclical. They really got hurt by the 2008 crash, eh? All right, so that's going to wrap this video up. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people, and I'll see you guys in the next video.